Well, good morning. Good morning. I am just sitting here taking a quick little video this morning. I am going to see if I can turn my camera around and show you who's coming to visit. Here's some of my chickens. Hello, Anish. Hi. Look at you guys. Oh, you are so inquisitive. So this morning, if I can pay attention without having chickens distract me, I wanted to talk about attention. So this is a good example of how to be able to focus. So attention. There are 4 different types of attention. We have what's called a sustained attention, which is pretty much concentration. How do you concentrate on doing something when a chicken is pecking your arm? So there are 4 types of attention. First one is sustained attention. That is just what we would consider normal concentration on a task. The second one is kind of appropriate right now. It's called selective attention. So selective attention is when you are focusing on one thing over something else. So for example, I have to focus on what I'm trying to work on this morning and tune out the chickens. So that is selective attention. That is the ability to filter out information or things going on in the background. So the third one is the one I really want to spend some time on this morning, and that is what's known as alternating or shifting attention. So alternating or shifting attention is very important because we can only really truly pay attention to one thing at a time. We can pay somewhat attention to 2 things, which is divided attention. Sorry, the car. Divided attention is paying attention to 2 things at the same time, but they are of equal or less cognitive difficulties. So for example, you can only pay attention to 2 things if they are not requiring your full attention. So an example of this would be cooking. When you're listening to a radio program or a podcast when you're cooking, you're splitting your attention, you're dividing your attention between 2 different things, but the activities are not of a nature that you have to focus on something so fully that you cannot focus on something else. So when we are children and we're learning to cook and we're having to read a recipe and we're having to actually concentrate on the task of learning to cook, we cannot use divided attention to pay attention to 2 different things. So the only time we can do divided attention is when we are paying attention to 2 things that are of equal or less cognitive ability, which is why we can do 2 things that are pretty easy at the same time. So back to shifting or alternating attention. So shifting or alternating attention is actually a very different thing. We can only pay true attention, like focus on one thing at a time. So a good example of shifting or alternating your attention between 2 things is driving and texting, which is why driving and texting is so difficult and why it's so dangerous. So when we're driving, even though driving is a very automatic activity for us, and we're not necessarily, at least if we're, long-term drivers, not somebody who's learning to drive, we're not using we're not thinking through every step by step what we need to do. But there's a lot of things that we're paying attention to at the same time. We're paying attention to the cars coming down the road, we're looking at their speed, we're looking at our own speed, we're paying attention to, is somebody driving in front of me, is a child running across the road, those kinds of things. So we're paying attention to a lot of different factors when we're driving. When we're texting, we're paying a lot of attention to the words that we're texting or what we're doing. So we actually have to pay fully attention to driving, and then when we remove our attention away from driving or shift it away onto the phone to do our texting, then we have none of our attention actually on the road. Even though it is just a nanosecond or a few seconds that we're doing it, in that time, you're not paying attention to the road at all. You're paying all your attention on your phone and doing the texting. And then from the second that it takes you to unfocus from your phone and shift your attention back to the road, your attention's not on either one. So this is what makes texting and driving so difficult. It's because we're actually alternating our attention between two different things. So an example of this in my life when I was a manager, or even us when we're working with, other people or our children or something. Put yourself in front of a computer where you're actually paying attention to the work that you're doing on the computer. And somebody comes in and they start to talk to you. And you've acknowledged them, you've kind of said, or whatever, but your attention hasn't actually shifted from what you're looking at or what you're doing to the person. And so what happens in that period of time, it looks like, the person will tell you something, I'm going to take this day off, or the kids tell you something that you're supposed to respond to. And then you acknowledge them, or you even agree, or you even tell them, you have a conversation with them, but afterwards it's like, you don't remember it at all. And the reason you don't remember it is because your attention was still on the computer screen. You actually had not shifted your attention to the person that was speaking to you. So when you have people who have trouble with their memory, or with paying attention, or even with just dividing their attention between two different things, don't try to tell them something that they actually need to pay attention to without first making sure that they have shifted their attention away from the thing that had their attention to begin with. So sometimes when it looks like people are having trouble with their memory, it might actually be that they have not shifted their attention from the one task to the other task to actually pay attention to it well enough to be able to say, oh, I've actually heard and acknowledged what you've said, and then shift your attention back. So just to recap this morning, we're talking about attention. So there are 4 types of attention. There's sustained attention, which is what we think of as concentration, just being able to concentrate on a task. You can't learn something unless you can concentrate on a task. The second one is selective attention. That's your ability to filter out information. That was me with the chickens. When they were distracting me, I had to pay attention to what I was doing and ignore the chickens. The third one is divided attention, which is when we're able to divide our attention between two tasks of equal or less cognitive difficulty. And then the fourth one is the most important one, that is alternating or shifting your attention between two tasks. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys have a great day. I tried this as a recording today, not as a live, since I wanted to be outside. It's such a beautiful day. We're going to get some rain. But if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below, and I'd be happy to talk about whatever it is that you need to know or want to know about thinking. So yet again, I didn't say this at the beginning. My name is Lizette. I'm the owner of Think Different Dementia, and I'm doing a training, or just some training in how what the different factors of cognition is. And next time I will get back to the executive functions. Have a good day.